Welcome to lesson 3. We're going to look at the top causes of death, and we're also going to look at population level nutritional over and under consumption concerns. So here are the top 10 causes of death worldwide. The singular most important thing to notice here is that ischemic heart disease, also called coronary heart disease or coronary artery disease, or in the lay realm, heart disease, and it's also called cardiovascular disease, is the number one cause of death. And interestingly, during the COVID pandemic, even COVID did not unseat heart disease as the number one cause of death worldwide. And if you look at the front runners, stroke, COPD, lower respiratory infections, neonatal conditions, on down the line. The top three are nutrition related, but the number one, heart disease, is absolutely nutrition related. Now, with most diseases, let's say, there are going to be genetic factors and environmental / behavioral factors that interplay in order to manifest the disease. Diet and body composition and physical activity are very strongly influencing an individual's potential for developing heart disease, regardless of their genetic predispositions. So the main thing I want you to catch from this slide is, number one, heart disease is undefeated. And number two, we can use nutrition as a tool to mitigate the number one cause of death. So if we were to maximize longevity, we have to know who the main culprit is, who the main enemy is, what's killing us off to the greatest degree, and that would be heart disease. So, underconsumed nutrients of public health concern. Here's the list of them. And you can begin to see that there are different patterns of foods that cover these, but something that I hope you can begin to appreciate is that if you were to create a diet that's unhealthy, not only would you focus on an excess of total calories and an excess of, in quotes, empty calories, but you would focus on the neglect for complete essential macro and micronutrition. And so over here, we've got the list of underconsumed at the population level nutrients: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin C, choline, iron, calcium, potassium, magnesium, fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, and lo and behold, protein and amino acids, particularly in older adults. And so you can use this table as a reference. This was published in a recent paper that I wrote with Brad Schoenfeld and Kevin Tipton. And that is also available in free full text, but you'll have to contact me to get it because it's tough to get the paper in free full text in the public domain. Okay, so these are population level nutritional hits and misses, I call them. So overconsumed nutrients at least in the US, total calories, added sugars, saturated fat, sodium, and refined grains. Now, these are overconsumed compared to public health recommendations. And they're over here in the purple-ish, lavender color, overconsumed nutrients, elements. And underconsumed are, maybe not too surprisingly, fruits, vegetables, dairy, and unrefined grains. I have a little bit more to say about grains when we talk about them in the food module, but public health recommendations have always been very fond of grains, and they're kind of a double-edged sword. they can be a decent source of fiber, but they can also be problematic in the sense that a lot of grain products are easy to overconsume in terms of total calories. And a lot of grain products, in spite of being labeled whole grain, it's not necessarily intact grain. And it's very possible to label a product whole grain despite it being pretty heavily refined and within the context of foods that are easy to overconsume passively. So I'll be speaking more about that on the next module, but just wanted to go off on a side note soapbox there about the double-edged sword nature of grains. And with that, I will see you back in lesson 4, where we talk about the health hype behind intermittent fasting versus the research evidence.